go to the regular login, if you're a participant, it should put you in as a participant. That's what it did for me.
Oh dear. Can you
Oh,
hear me?
it's ominous.
No? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you
I
hear
hear you. Now that I'm unmuted, you can hear me.
Are we started? It's recording.
It's recording.
Oh, seat of our pants tonight. This is coping in the COVID world with part of our panelists. We're a little scattered tonight. We'll get back here soon. Well, we're going to talk about resilience and perseverance and bravery and unity. How about? You can, well, I don't think we're live. Oh, yes, we are. You can use, you can use the Q&A and put in your questions and we will answer you happily. So please feel free to do that. Then there you'll see a Q&A. You can put in questions and comments and happily talk to you about how you're doing right now and how you're coping in this crazy world that we live in. Lots of things going on. I want to thank Olivia for being our Mono County IT support. And I do think we have more people joining, and then we just had one person leave. So Beth, it's you and me. How are you doing, Beth? How are you sleeping?
Oh, you know what? I am sleeping better. It's been sort of interesting to me, you know, because you know me well, Robin. I don't sleep very well, and I have. Hi, Stacy.
Hey, Stacy.
I have had the gift of I got the gift of getting a Fitbit and made a commitment to sleep and really focus on sleeping better. And I am teaching myself again how to sleep. I'm sure I slept well when I was a kid, and I decided that I deserve it now. It's been fun, actually. It's a little competitive, and I like competition sometimes. So I'm competitive with myself, and I'm winning.
So now you're a competitive sleeper?
I'm a competitive sleeper.
Yeah. Do you,
We were just talking about sleep. With all the stress, how's sleep going?
yeah, we're talking about moving forward, bravery, persistence,
Resilience
resilience,
and unity.
that community, unity, any ways that you all think you can participate in this world. And you know, the thing I'm learning too is for some of us, all of this stuff's going on, and then something else might be happening in people's lives, like, you know, people, like all kinds of things, like injuries or death or whatever. And it's just, wow, life. That's how it feels right now, is extra doses of life every day. How about you, Stacy? How are you sleeping?
You know, comes and goes. Right now, sleeping well. I find if I have to be, I have an Apple Watch, but it bothers me to have it on me. So I tend to, like with athletics and exercise, I obsess over the numbers too much. So I have resisted. I feel like I need to, and by the way, I don't know if you noticed it, because I think we had a glitch with our panelist emails. You're Robin Roberts tonight.
I know I'm Robin Roberts, and I'm feeling really, really,
I would have
blessed
joined on that link, and we just could have been Robin Roberts, because I think that would have been nice, like for the unity message.
That would have been a great unity message. It's an honor to be you, Robin, tonight.
I mean, why not just be one of your favorite people?
You're very sweet, but be careful what you wish for.
I sleep better if I follow a little routine that I've made for myself, and I have to be really strict with myself about going on time and not watching another episode of whatever on Netflix. So if I go to bed and I write, I do my daily wins and gratitude points in a journal. And then I treat myself I've been reading like real books, not in my Kindle, and read read, but then I even with that, I've got to like, okay, you're done, and and go to bed on time. Then I sleep really well. I find if I skip those things or stay on the screens too long.
Yeah. So there, I forgive me, I don't remember the name of the author, but there was some really interesting and excellent sleep research that was done that talks about this. It talks about that we all need a routine and good, what they call good hygiene for sleep. And part of it is that you go to bed and wake up around the same time every night, even on the weekends. Avoid caffeine and alcohol and all those kind of normal things that probably everybody knows about. But the other piece was 2 hours of no screen time before, of any kind of blue light. So screen time, television, etc. Particularly phone, Kindle. I don't know, Kindle, is that a screen? I guess so. Phone.
It's supposed to be like a
screen.
different kind. I don't know. I still count it though. I think it still counts.
Yeah. And that because it disrupts the way in which your body creates and metabolizes melatonin, which is essential to sleep. So it is a discipline. It is definitely a discipline to remind yourself like it's worth keeping it.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have done this, but I part of my teaching, given my interest and teaching mindfulness practices, is that I've learned how to breathe myself to sleep, really focus on breathing, and then in the middle of the night, because I'm a big in the middle of the night, person who gets interrupted, and then it's like, okay, now can I or can't I go to sleep again? And I really I'm a big believer, and the research shows it, that learning how to breathe and just letting go of the thoughts that you have that could definitely ignite some stimulation is so incredibly vital. And that's been another piece for me that's been great.
Yeah, that's another discipline point for me too, Beth. You bring, because I am the 2 to 3, like so many of us. You wake up and you think of like everything. Sometimes really good ideas. So I make sure I have the paper, pen. But so I've trained myself to right away either breathing, but I also do a little exercise I learned in a cognitive behavioral therapy program that I did, where I go through, I feel angry that, I feel sad that, I feel afraid, I feel guilty. And then on the flip side, you say, I feel grateful for, I feel happy for, I feel proud, I feel certain. So that always helps me too. And usually I don't even have to get through the whole thing. I can do, one of each, and I can get myself to fall back asleep. Except sometimes if I'm having really good ideas, I haven't been able to train myself to stop.
That's a good technique, Stacy. I'm gonna employ that, because what I did last night at 3 a.m. is say, I wonder if it's too early to get up at 3. Like, what? No. But then the ideas or I forgot to, whatever, like there's all these things. So Ingrid, how are you sleeping these days?
I'm sleeping okay. I'm really good about going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time. I'm finding sleep's kind of a reward, where you look at your watch, you're like, oh, it's only 7:30. How long till I can go to bed? But I am sleeping better now that I'm monitoring it and seeing when I go to bed and when I get up. And I'm an early riser. I'm a get up and get stuff done. I usually say a different word, but we're being recorded. So, but I am sleeping better. Tracking it helps. But I am also competitive, like Beth is. You want to beat last night's numbers. If you use that the sleep app on your Apple Watch, Stacy, it'll tell you have a sleep debt of 3%, or it's like, no, this is wrong, or you didn't get enough deep sleep. But I felt great. So try not to read too much into it. Just go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time, go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time. And wake up at 3 and toss and turn a little bit. Mine is more a hormonal type of a wake up than anything else. It comes with being, 53 and a half years old, but I do half years.
Oh, yeah.
So, and absolutely. I'm eating a split pea soup that I just made for me and my dad. So if you guys see me eating, that's because I made a really yummy split pea soup.
Right on, right on.
That's good.
So interesting. We started off at some point in this conversation, the community conversation about coping with COVID that we're in tonight. And we do have a Q&A at the bottom if you're interested. I think we're also broadcasting on Facebook Live if Mono County Behavioral Health page, as I remember it. But that we started off, we've been doing these for a while now. Now we're doing them monthly. And we started off talking about sleep, and now it sounds like we're all really actually being more mindful and paying more attention to it. And I'm hoping that's true for anybody who might be listening or who's struggling with all the stress that's going on in people's lives right now.
Robin, any chance you have the Facebook behavioral health Facebook page password? I think I'm seeing that, and it came to.
Password?
It's for, I believe it's for Olivia.
Oh, she's got it.
Okay, great.
Because no, the answer is I do not know it.
Got it. She has it. Okay.
Or if I know it, I can't remember.
I think I'm getting private messages with you, Robin, since
Oh,
I'm Robin
oh.
tonight. I'm glad you got your needs
Careful,
met,
Olivia.
Olivia.
Okay, coping with COVID. Also, this is a big day for the United States. There was a peaceful transfer of power, as we frequently expect, and now thought about a lot more than we might have in the past in the United States related to our democracy. And that happened today. Regardless of how you feel related to the politics of it, I hope that you're breathing a sigh of relief that we're on to the next thing. There's been a call for unity. I would like us to talk a little bit about what that might mean or how that might be related to our mental health. I can say for me, being angry a lot isn't in my best interest. It doesn't affect my sleep in a positive way. It doesn't affect my well-being in a positive way. It makes me focus on, if I allow my anger to be central, I end up focusing on things that I really don't have control over, and the people around me suffer, and etc. So unity to me would mean working on a way to stay connected to somebody, even if I don't agree with them. We'll start with that.
You know, if I think about unity, Robin, and I really like the way you said that, I think about being present. And for me, the amount of anger and divisiveness that I've been experiencing has really taken me out of the present moment, and really being able to enjoy what I'm doing at the time. And I realize that I've spent a lot of time in that space, and I'm hoping that and I'm more aware of it, that I can allow myself to get back to the moment, because there's so much that we cannot control right now. There is so much, and I'm overwhelmed quite often at that amount. And yet I know that if I'm in the present moment, I feel like at least I'm in control of that. Even if it's what I'm eating the next meal, or you know, working today, or what I'm expected, or if I'm, you know, out on a hike. If I'm out on a hike, I want to be in nature and experience it, not be thinking about something else that I'm worried about that I can't control anyway. So that to me is what I'm excited about, this whole sense of unity, is to let a lot of stuff go.
Makes sense. How about the rest of you?
You know what? I want to read. I love this so much, from the poem that by Amanda Gorman that was read today, because I think it speaks to this a lot, and it really spoke to how I'm feeling right now. So we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. And that speaks to me not only of the political and divide and the social unrest and violence that we've seen, but also how we deal with COVID lately. You know, here in Mammoth, we had, it was really hard over the Christmas, New Year's period, because that's the time the businesses around here make their money. It was pretty devastating to people and just to have that uncertainty, to not know if there was going to be any, you know, future federal aid, to just have every expectation you've ever built in your business and your life around just kind of get crushed. And yet still to have people kind of coming and have that gray area and unease. A lot of people, a lot of especially business owners called into our meetings and sent me emails or called me and said, quit saying we're in it together. We're not in it together. You don't know what I'm going through. This is awful. You're not answering calls from your employees and saying, you know, when am I going to work again? How am I going to get by? And that's right. I have people doing that. But the thing is with Unity, and COVID, we are in it together because it's a virus that spreads among people. We are in it together, and the only way through it. So when she says, you know, we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We have to get through this, and Unity is the only way. And it's not easy, but there really is no other choice. We've got to figure it out. And so to keep dwelling on being angry and hating other people and thinking no one else understands me, I'm all by myself, is harder. So let's work on trying to get together and what are some strategies and techniques and things we can do. Sorry, that was a bit of a tirade.
It was beautiful.
I actually appreciated the tyrant. I didn't, or whatever word you used, tirade. I'm wondering, as you're saying that, Stacy, too, it's that I know for myself, you know, I really have to reduce my judgment about what's right and wrong, or if someone is thinking differently than me. And I'm used to seeing myself as much more open-minded than I've been, especially around COVID, because the risks are so high. And one piece that I'm looking forward to is sort of allowing myself to suspend judgment and listen better so that I can understand where people are coming from. And I've already started doing that. And I'm hearing more than I was able to hear when I was so angry all the time. And it's not easy.
No, I thanks for both of those things. And Stacy, I know that when you sign up to be a public figure, well, when you sign up to be in public office and become a public figure, you know that you're going to be in the public, right? I mean, that's your job, obviously. And then we get in these situations where people don't necessarily understand how government works. It all looks like it's one thing, like the government, and that, you know, you're caught between that proverbial rock and that hard place where you actually don't have very much control over this at all. And you're trying to protect the county over time because we don't know what would happen. If the county went rogue, we don't know what would happen later to us, potentially. And the feds didn't necessarily step in a way that was useful to the people, and the state's struggling. And then you have on the other side, your constituents, and you have our community, the people that we know and love, and it's our community. I mean, driving around Mammoth today to go to the post office, it's very dead, right? Not to mention, we have no snow to speak of. I mean, we have a little, the mountain is running and all of that. But in terms of what we're used to on our earth right now for us, it's very, very, very different. And it's not conducive to a lot of winter activity that we might normally have. And they have to tell their worker that they can't come in today. And so it's all of those things. It's not one of those things. I think to me, maybe Unity is understanding like if you think the person's doing their best, even if they're telling you something you don't want to hear, or they can't help you out of something that feels drastic to you, that has significance and meaning. And that if all of us can agree that we're doing our best and we'll correct our mistakes as we move along here the best we can, and that we're not trying to put people in peril for some other reason, but that we also can't help, that is a really hard place to sit. And I mean, I go more into sad than angry, but I can get angry in that spot because it makes me feel powerful. Like it's way easier to be mad at somebody when I am in a place that feels desperate, or to get really sad and kind of give up in a place that feels desperate than it does to be like, okay, I'm desperate and how can I like still see people trying to be helpful? I don't know if that makes sense. We are coping, or not, with COVID here through Mono County Behavioral Health. We're on the Facebook Live Mono County Behavioral Health page. And we have panelists this evening. A good and a small crew this time. And we're just talking about unity and how we're doing, how we're sleeping. How are you doing out there in our community of Mono County and beyond? And we have a Q&A part of the webinar. If you want to like switch on there, you can leave a comment or a suggestion or whatever question. You can also do that through our Facebook Live page. These are taped. We do upload them later. You can watch them later at your convenience. You can binge watch them. There's quite a few of them if you'd like. And then really, we're here to, in a funny way, in a sweet way, in an important way, we're here to normalize that all of us are struggling in different ways with what's going on in the world. And some of us are struggling with more than what's going on in the world. I was talking to somebody in the LA area who runs a big company. She has about 300 employees. They've lost 60 people. And lost as in died. That doesn't include just the people whose family members have died or anything else. And so trying to help navigate the grief of that and the shock and then the grief. And that's just related to COVID. That's not related to all the other things that happen in a human's life. And I want to make space in myself for those people. I want to make space for the restaurant workers and the restaurant owners that are really freaked out and struggling right now, even if I can't actually do anything. Ingrid?
No, when you talked about Los Angeles, because that's where I am right now, and it's a whole different world down here. It actually helps to get that perspective to go out. I'm down here with my dad, and I got my first shot of the vaccine a week ago. And Mono County, I mean, sometimes we think, oh God, nothing ever happens here, but we are moving at such a better pace than the rest of the state. I can't get a vaccine for my 85-year-old father. I know law enforcement officers, first responders that have waited hours in a parking lot at Dodger Stadium to get it. Whereas my husband, who will be, well, I won't tell his age, but he falls into 1C class, which actually I would too, just got an email that he can get the vaccine next week. We're moving at a much better pace. We are in a better place. Sometimes it just helps to step out of it and get some perspective. I'm not saying everything's great and sunshine and rainbows and butterflies, but don't ever ask if it can get worse, because it can. It can always get better, but it can always get worse. I know that's not helpful. My grandmother, and this was just a saying of someone who lived through the Depression: eat what you can what you can't. And that meant for food. If you've got leftovers, save them. For me, I take that as eat what you can, digest what you can, handle what you can, and then can what you can't. If something's not your problem, sometimes you got to have that round file in your head that's NMP, not my problem. And I'm learning to put things in there because I'm a solver. I want to fix people's problems, but some of them aren't mine to fix. A lot of them are, but a lot of them aren't mine to fix. And that's what I do for my own mental health. Go, okay, I want to help you. I'm a solver, but not my problem. And sometimes people just want to vent. They don't want you to solve their problem. So, and that's hard for me too, because I'm a solver. I had a long talk with a friend, and she was telling me that stuff going on with her kids. And I don't have kids, and I didn't have answers for her. And it turns out she didn't want answers. She just wanted somebody to listen. So eat what you can what you can't.
I like that.
I'm gonna put that on some cross stitch somewhere, if I knew how to cross stitch.
It's interesting when you were saying Los Angeles, Ingrid, because in Orange County, because of some problems for us, they've actually stopped a lot of the areas where you can get the vaccine. So everything's sort of halted today. And it's on its face, it's shocking. And then there's something that is just scary about our rollouts down here. Very scary to me. So I really do understand what you're saying, the differences between counties. And it sounds to me like Mono County's got it together more than we are doing it down here in Southern California. It's very concerning.
Yeah, I think Mono County is doing a great job dealing with what they have. It's not always easy to interface with the state.
Yes.
But I think, yeah, as you're saying, they're doing a really great job rolling out the vaccination and testing at this time. The other thing about Mono County is it's really easy to be apart from people.
Yeah.
You know, you can go outside and not see another human if you need some time, and you have the time to do that. And so as it relates specifically to COVID, we've got that dialed too, I think, which is if you're in Orange County or LA, you have to work a lot harder to do that kind of thing. Okay. Unity, perseverance.
Can we go back to being inspired by Amanda Gorman?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. You go.
That's actually what I've been trying to do on social media, because I've had some really negative interactions with people and arguing, and what happened, the insurrection at the Capitol has divided us even further, and a lot of finger pointing and, well, but they did, but this, but that. It was really nice to have a message that was so forward looking and from a young person. It gives me hope. It was super inspirational. I mesmerized by her. I think I've listened to it 5 times.
So for those of you who may not know what we're talking about, is part of at least the last several inaugurations of a new leader for the United States, new president. There's a poet laureate, and this year they had the young poet laureate. She's laureate. She's 22 years old, and she gave a very stunning, very poised performance of a poem. And you can find it easily by Googling it, certainly. And it is something that has a lot of gems in it, so I can imagine listening to it quite a bit. Do you want to talk more about it? Or do you just took a bite of your pea soup? This is Coping with COVID. We have a Q&A. If you have a question or a comment or something you'd like to add to our conversation, please feel free to do that. We're also live on Facebook at the Mono County Behavioral Health Facebook page. So it's such a mouthful for me. We're here once a month these days, talking about just how to get through these times. And I was going to ask, like, I don't feel, when the vaccine was started to be, when it sounded like the vaccine was going to be disseminated amongst communities kind of quickly, I started to feel like this shake a little loose from this, like, the quote, you know, light at the end of the tunnel. I don't feel like that right now. Do you all feel that way? I mean, my personal life might change a little bit. I might be a little less worried once I am fully vaccinated, but I don't know. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, well, it doesn't change, but I guess, you know, really sticking, it's a long tunnel still. I hate going through tunnels, don't you? I love, like, Switzerland. I love Switzerland and spend a long time there. They have some long ass tunnels in that country, and you're like, okay, so there's a 30-mile tunnel. Where's the light? So yeah, you have to, you know, you just have to keep going. But then I think, wow, maybe I'll get to go back to Switzerland someday, maybe next year, maybe the year after. So yeah, I don't know. It's a funny thing. And also, yeah, none of us really, well, most of us don't really know when we're going to get vaccinated. So I don't know. It helped though, for me, but I don't feel like I can behave differently or change my everyday life.
So having got the first vaccine, I'm still doing what I'm supposed to do. I wear a mask. I do all the things, because it's not full efficacy, especially until you get the second shot, and then sometime after that. But it changes how you think inside. you do, I don't know, even it's just psychological. It's a placebo effect, the protection. You feel better. Like I feel better going to the grocery store. I don't have that fear, but discomfort around other people. For me, it made a difference. And I do feel like I'm in the BART tunnel underneath the San Francisco Bay, and you're really worried there's going to be an earthquake and we're all going to die. But probably you're just going to end up at Embarcadero and you're going to be fine. You're going to come outside and you're going to see the light. So it does feel better. At least for me, it certainly made a difference.
I'm actually looking forward to that, Ingrid. We're not going out. I can't wait to go out because I'm tired of staying at home. And then when I do go out, I experience that level of anxiety that makes me then want to go back home. And so again, I'm not at all present. I can't wait to get back, and I'm looking forward to that. Unfortunately, down here in Orange County, even the technology is not working. So the frustration for many of us who are on, are in line because of our work, we can't even get through the technology to find out what can happen. So I think that's also adding to some frustration, that you're in line and there's not a system that is operable to actually help you. So, but I'm looking forward to that feeling that, okay, even though I'm going to still be very careful, I'm going out and I don't have to experience that level of anxiety and distress.
Makes sense?
Looks like Catherine, Indigo, Dirk, and Catherine Caroline.
Yeah, a question like about humans. There's people that are who struggle with information, and Catherine is talking about how if we know stuff, if we use knowledge, then that's half the battle, and you feel better if you know you know something in a rational way. I think probably scientific. And I think, at least for me, that's definitely true for me. I like to understand how things work. I think there's certain, like, especially now when things feel so out of control, like I was just thinking this morning, like, okay, well, gravity's still working. Like I can get out of bed and the sun still comes up, and those kinds of things are important because they're part of the everyday that matter. But they're also scientific, like getting the vaccine, even talking about the vaccine, how that works. And I don't need to know like the details of how that works. I don't actually want to know. And I have too many other things in my head right now, but I trust enough of that process because I live in a country that has vetted vaccines for a long time. And so I'm willing to take whatever risk comes along with it because everything has a risk, right? So that's how I do it. I don't know how you all do it. It's good to know a little bit about something in order to move forward, I think. Like democracy, like I'll give an example. When I've always been, I grew up in a family where voting was probably the most important thing. You voted or you got kicked out of the family. A slight exaggeration. That was really important in my family. And my family trusted democracy because we had a vote. And so you voted in any election that you were eligible to vote in. Once, you voted once, there was no fraud, all of that. I didn't really understand everything that was behind voting until I came to work for Mono County and met the people that work in the elections department. Talk about a regulated, my department, behavioral health, is super regulated, but talk about regulation. Like literally everything that they do is documented and supported. And there's just like all the regulation that goes into voting. And the reason for that is because votes need to count, because this is a democracy. Like learning the back end of that really changed my care, I think, about the people that do that work in every county and every state, so that people have that ability to vote. Because especially on the local level, your vote really can matter, and it matters like to who you vote into these situations, right? But then also on the national level, it really matters. And it's important to know that your vote matters, I think. That's the tenet, that's the science of democracy for me. So, and again, I invite people to come to Mono County and learn about, like, you can go, once we're open, you can talk to the elections department and see what it looks like. So they work so hard for so long before that election day. And then they can tell you exactly what happens with your vote. And that to me is very comforting. And that to me is about knowledge. I have a soapbox tonight.
I think, part of the question, it's easy for us to, again, kind of go back to anger and think, why is everybody so stupid? Why don't they get it? And that's a struggle. And that's where a lot of the fighting between factions come, like, well, here are my facts and here are your facts. And, how do we come together? So, it's hard. You try to imagine some context. At least this is what I do, before I get mad, why don't they know that? Why don't they trust that? There are a lot of things that go into something like our public education system. And a lot of that is left up. And just like voting, it's highly regulated, but it's also individualized and left open to individual states and, even in some local school districts to a certain degree. And so we're not always all, on the same page, reading the same book, even reading in the same language, or some of us never got to learn how to read. So trying to maintain kind of compassion, there are definitely some lines that can't be crossed, and we have to stand up for our values, but I think also trying to maintain some level of compassion and understanding for people who don't agree with us. That has been put, I say all that saying that all of that has really been put to the test over the past few weeks, but I just don't know, if I don't do that, I don't know how I go on and find unity and perseverance and all these other things.
Yeah, I
Well,
wonder.
and part of oh, go ahead, Beth.
Oh, I was just thinking.
No, go ahead.
I was just thinking that, part of perseverance is tolerance, right? And I don't think that I've connected that as much as in this past year, is the level of tolerance, which is what I think you're saying, right, Stacy, is that if we are compassionate too, we're going to be tolerant with each other's differences. We might not understand, but there's some level, and I feel like that's something that I lost for a while, is my level of tolerance. And usually in other circumstances, I'm incredibly tolerant. And some days I have trouble finding that. I'm because our lifestyles have been upended in some level, and I've grown tired. I don't know if you guys have, but I'm grown tired and weary at times. It's weary.
I think what I don't have a good skill with is people shouting at me. Like I had somebody the other day disagree with me, which is fine. I actually like the engagement, the process of disagreement. But this person decided that there's like this new paradigm, and I'm not in the world much, so it may not be that new, but where once disagreement, so like we're talking, and once the disagreement happens, then it just elevates to this place where all of a sudden I have become the wall to which you're going to yell at me because you've seen lots of other people think that that's a way to communicate. And I'm like, I want to hear what you have to say. I felt like, again, I'm back in these very fundamental places again in my life where I really want to hear what you have to say. I appreciate that you're very passionate about what you're about to say. But when you're talking at me like that, I don't want to hear it. Like you lost me. It doesn't even matter it's not even really a matter. Like, are we going to have an exchange here? Like, do you really want to know what I think or why I think the way I do? Because you know, that's where connection gets developed, and that's where really good friendships happen with people who have differences, is you care about each other, and you think, you're a dumbass, but I want to hear what you have to say. Like, that's reasonable, right? But this person who's a normal person, like, not normal, but like a regular person in my life, it just started like this event happened, and I was like, and I kept saying, like, hold on, and this person would not stop, because it really felt to me like there's this new way of communication where once you get that switch turned on, you get to do it however you want to. And I want to appeal to people like, no, this isn't really about division to me. I mean, that's the narrative right now. And yes, we are divided as a country and people and all of that. This is about tolerance. This is about what would happen to me. Like, I tried to imagine what was going on in this person's heart, really. Like, how does that make you feel good? Because you wouldn't be doing it if it didn't make you feel good. Like, we don't do things on purpose that make us feel bad. They might make us feel bad later, but in the moment, it was clearly about like, you know, and yeah, I don't need to make people bad. I don't want to do that. And at the same time, I don't want to be made bad either. Like, I don't want to be the bad guy to your good guy. That's, I don't know. It's not that interesting, honestly. But also kind of, I think Stacey and Ingrid, both of you are much more public than I am. Like, okay, so you get to have your say, you get to say it in a way that has no just manner to it, like manners, just common sense, cordial ways of talking to another human. Because I'm mad in a certain way, I get to talk to you however I want to. That doesn't advance anything. I mean, it really doesn't advance anything except disconnection. And if that's what you want, just say, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Don't make the person go through the whole process. So I don't have, I feel like when we talk about tolerance, I think it's also important to say, like, there's certain things we shouldn't put up with, especially as women, I will say. You don't get to just be yelled at and talked to in ways that are nasty because somebody else feels like you deserve it because you have a disagreement. And what I think the poem outlined to me today is those things, like, it used to be if you disagreed about this giant thing, then it would get heated. Now you just have to disagree about, like, it was something so small that it just blew up into this big thing, and it became, yeah, no, don't do that. Do not do that.
You know, it's interesting when you say that, Robin, because the first thing I was thinking as you were saying that is that I'm not sure that how people are communicating, they're really communicating the thing that they're really wanting to communicate a lot. And I'm not saying that, you know, people have sort of are more divisive and have a lot of opinions right now that are very binary. They're right or wrong. They're good or bad. And we know that. And people are feeling very threatened and many of them are very scared. Many people are just, you know, our lives have changed and our threats, some of it's very threatening to our own survivals in many instances. But I also realize that sometimes I wish, even myself, I had enough self-awareness sometimes to just say, will you just listen while I rant? And it has nothing to do with you, right?
Right,
And to be able
right.
to just, can you, like, and I know right now I've been recommending, because, you know, I work a lot with counties, and I've been recommending that people do listening circles, and listening circles have been fascinating. And it's where you get a group of people on a
Interesting.
platform and you just listen and you don't comment. You listen, and then when that person's done, you go to the next person who gets to vent and say what they need, understanding the rules in the beginning, which are that this is not going to be personalized, and you're not to attack anyone in the room. You are to communicate what you need to communicate, and you can say what you need to say. And I think that there's something really powerful, because I don't think we're socializing enough to even feel like we're being listened to enough right now.
Yeah.
So part of my tolerance has been understanding, and I agree with you, there needs to be boundaries. I'm not going to get verbally beaten up, But I also am trying to really understand, is this really about the topic we're talking about, or is this just about the last 9, 10 months of a crappy lifestyle that, we're all get exhausted from, and we all have a lot of feelings about it, and probably haven't even talked about it enough to people we would like to. So I don't know about you. I don't want to talk about it with my family. I really don't want to talk about it with my family or my good friends, because I know they're suffering too. And that's when I call my therapist. Have a good session.
So maybe at the heart is loneliness and despair
And isolation,
and isolation.
and not being heard enough, and not interacting enough. I miss the little talks. I don't know about you guys. I miss the little talks, like being able to go down to, I mean, we have actually closed our office in Sacramento, which was, I'm still grieving about that because I've had an office there for forever. And like just walking down the hallway and being able to say hi to someone, just find out how their weekend was. Everything's so intentional now. It takes a lot of energy.
I miss humor.
I miss humor too.
The last 2 weeks, I'm on so many damn Zoom meetings. I've been experimenting with humor and just trying to do it anyway, and it's just failing.
Nobody laughs on this.
No, I just be interruptive in that way. They're like, what? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, no, because it's just like, silly stuff. Yeah.
Well, you can't get humor. I decided that humor really works best when you're all in the room together because it's infectious.
Uh-huh.
So I agree with you.
Okay, this is coping with COVID and other things. We are live on Facebook at the Mono County Behavioral Health Facebook page. We'll be here once a month through this format. We invite you, the public, to join us, ask your questions, make your comments in the Q&A part. We have a little bit more time here, I think about 8 minutes or so. I want to thank Olivia for stepping into the IT chair real quickly here. She's been super busy with the county and getting us together around that, like you're talking about, infrastructure around vaccines and everything else that she does. It's just awesome, and thank you. We have Beth Cohen here tonight. There's not two Robin Robertses. That would be me, the Robin Roberts, and the actual Beth Cohen, and then Stacy Corliss and Ingrid Braun, all from Mono County, are working in some fashion with Mono County, not necessarily in Mono County right now. So last time we were together, was it around the fire? Like, what was happening that we were all we had a big panel. You guys remember it all? I don't remember right now. And
It was December, right? Before the
right? Was it? Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so after the Mountain View fire.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we've got a pandemic, which none of us have been through, and boy, is that a thing to deal with. And we're gonna have some amazing stories afterwards. We've had more than 400,000 people die in our country. We've had some people die in our community. We've had a major fire that took out a big part of a community. We've had smoke. We're having drought. We have businesses that are really struggling. We have employees who are really struggling. We've got a lot of brothers sneezing downstairs. We have a lot of things that are going on, and we're here to hold it, and we're here to hold it not by ourselves, because I could not do this by myself. If I didn't have you all in some way, there's no way I could do this. I wouldn't want to either, I think. And so I know some people are more close to an edge around that, and other people are feeling better around that, but we're here in part to hold our community. That's why we take this time out every month. And I always want to thank you all, including you, Olivia, out there in IT land, and those of you that are listening in, those of you that listen in later. You are my community, and it's important to me. Like, the little things that we're doing for each other right now are what's keeping me afloat, for sure.
Sorry, Lottie, the dog just wanted to say something. Well, speaking of, hi, Lottie. Just a community, one thing that helps is to have your dog bark when you're trying to talk.
Oh.
Is remembering just around the fire, and I think we talked about this last time, just that we are a community, that when something really bad like that happens, people step up in the most amazing ways to just help people they don't know, their neighbors, sure, people they know really well, but also people they don't know and have never met, and want, generally, people want to try to help. And
Yeah.
going back to what we were talking about before, there are a lot of people who aren't going to get the vaccine and who aren't going to go along, and who think the message of unity is silly and too idealistic. But there are enough of us that want to do this kind of thing, that want to talk and want to help each other through it. And so I hope this is a place people can find that. And there are other places. I mean, behavioral health is still doing all kinds of programs. But it's, when you really need help, and if you're able to ask for help, you can get it. And that's pretty heartwarming.
Yeah. And the secret to us as humans, we all want to be seen, heard, and understood. We just want that. It doesn't matter if you believe in unity or not. You think that's a foo-foo message. Have at it. You don't have to. I mean, I'm using unity just because I'm coming up with words that were brought up today on the national level, but we all want that. I don't care where you sit. That's what you want. That's why I have a job, is to help people figure out how to articulate that and how to connect with that. And part of it is listening. Part of it is understanding, like, if I keep going into conversations strident and angry, people are going to shut down. And what I'm looking for is connection, you got to slow that roll down a little bit. You got to figure out a way so the deal of 3 is, if you ask a question of someone, ask 2 more questions after that. How are you? How are you sleeping? I'm sleeping. Well, what is your new method? Well, like, how's that working for you? Or what are the hard parts about that? Or what are the cool parts about that? Like, anytime you ask somebody how they're doing, don't just launch into how you're doing. Ask them 3 questions. Try that everywhere you go. It can be fun. And I mean that, like, through your mask in the post office, through your double mask in the grocery store, out on the street, in situations like this. Ask more questions, and especially with people that you don't necessarily know or you have big disagreements with. That's something we can all do. And that betters our world. And you want to call it unity, you want to call it what you want, that's fine. Personally, I mean, you guys might care. The other Robin Roberts might really care about that. I'm not sure. But I don't care. You could be as hardliner as you want. But
I can
I know
also
you
just
want to be heard.
But can't we also just call it reducing our sense of isolation and aloneness?
Sure.
I think that's I think what we would take for granted by even greeting people in stores or on the street, right, has been greatly diminished because of masks, right, and of being told that we need to stay distant, physically distant. So I agree with you that it's human beings we are not built to be isolated and be islands. We're just not built for it. No. And for those people who start to feel depressed or noticing other just sort of emotional upheavals internally, some of it can be as a result of our lifestyles and the amount of isolation that many of us are experiencing. And it's interesting too, because you guys know me, I'm on these platforms all day long, but it's not the same as being with people.
No.
Second best, but it's not the same.
I know. Think if we were all in the same room right now.
What would that be like? Awesome.
That would be great.
That would be awesome.
That would be.
I want to come up, guys.
We'd be eating pea soup and donuts, I'll tell you.
Exactly. I want to come up and play.
All right. Well, we're getting to a close here for Coping with COVID in January of 2021 on the 20th. Thank you for joining us. If anybody have any last words or parting shots before we take off, we'll be back. We haven't decided on a date for February yet because we're trying to coordinate it around a bunch of other meetings that are going on so that we can have as many panelists here as possible. We always invite you, the community here. We're glad that you're here. And again, I want to thank Olivia from IT for helping us out and setting us up here. Last
Thanks, Olivia. That's another, just express the little things, the little expressions of gratitude. Not only is it probably, and Olivia's writing back, thanks. It's nice for the other person,
Mhm.
but it makes you feel better. And we've talked about that before, but this is still really hard. Any little tiny beansy thing you can do, to positive like that helps someone else, will make you feel better too. I put this thing on my calendar called Happier January. You can look it up, and it's like a Google calendar, and it's just like one little thing you can do every day. Oh, guess what it tells me today, you guys? Go to bed in good time and give yourself, I gotta read it. Go to bed in good time and give yourself, enough time to fall asleep. So there's our advice.
Oh.
So every day it
Like
says
dry
something.
January?
Yeah, but it's Happier January. Yesterday's was get back in contact with an old friend you miss.
Mm,
So you
Oh,
just send a
I like
text to
that.
That's
someone.
awesome.
Yeah.
I also want to end with the fact that I am incredibly hopeful on the other side, because of the vaccine, and because although we are maybe in the beginning part of the tunnel, um, we know that in 1918 that tunnel ended, and we are much better off than we were in those years. So I am incredibly hopeful in terms of where we are right now. And I know that we're still in for a long haul, but we're definitely inside the tunnel now. And before that, I was just looking at it.
I think tunnels are cultural because my favorite tunnel is the one that goes to the LA airport from El Segundo.
Mhm.
When I was a kid, we would drive through and we would hold our breath. And now I'm hearing in Switzerland, there's tunnels that I could never hold my breath in. So clearly the metaphor needs a little work.
Some people might love being in the tunnel. Maybe they feel secure. I don't know.
Yeah, like a rebirthing experience.
Mhm.
Ingrid, any last words you got for us?
No, I love that you used to hold your breath through a tunnel. My mom used to have us do that, hold our breath through the tunnel
Yeah.
on the 110 freeway. And then we realized as adults that it was just to get us to be quiet for a little bit.
Totally. And my dad would honk the horn in the tunnel, try to get other
Oh,
people.
he was that guy. Yeah.
No, totally that guy. Community. And back then, which was a long time ago, that was a thing. Like now the last time I was in that tunnel, which was not that long, like a year ago, I did it and nobody honked back. But I didn't hold my breath because I was driving. Okay. We'll be back in February with more for you. And we hope you'll join us with coping with COVID in this new normal and this new time. And hopefully between now and then, the light will get brighter at the end of this tunnel and there won't be more tragedy in our lives. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
glad to
It was
see
great
you.
Thank
to
you
see
again,
all.
Olivia.
Thank you
Night.
again, Olivia.
Thanks, Olivia.
Night.
Good night, everyone.